Welcome to the VMJPod's Employer Brand Series. I'm David Macciocca, and this time I'm joined by co-host Will Innes. Together, we'll dive into the strategies and stories emerging from Brisbane, with lessons that help you build credibility, scale impact, and deliver results.
Welcome to VMJPod. We are unpacking employer brand, and we have a very interesting episode coming up. I'm David Macciocca.
I'm Will Innes.
And I'm Tibo Torche.
Thanks for joining us today, Tibo.
My pleasure.
Fantastic.
Thanks for inviting me.
So today we're going to jump into basically building an employer brand from ground up. And I'm right in thinking this isn't something your organization's done before.
Not really, no.
So it's kind of a new venture. It's quite a big thing to take on.
Definitely.
Can you give us a bit of context? Because I think the organization, like how known is it? What do you guys do? Just a bit of background would really bring this to life.
100%. So we are the exclusive distributor of a well-known product from the States. And over the last couple of years, we've grown quite significantly. And with that came the need to reassess the employee value proposition, I suppose. We were very well known into what we do, which is very niche, being geographic information systems. But obviously, when it comes to talent acquisition, we're not just recruiting GIS specialists. So very little people know about GIS, very little people know about the brand when it comes to, say, marketing recruitment or sales recruitment.
Well, this is what makes this episode so fascinating, because Esri is not one of those companies that jump out at you from a consumer brand perspective. So I can imagine having a documented employer brand is so important.
Very much so.
And what's your role within the organization?
So I'm now the group talent acquisition manager. So we've recently, I guess, acquired a number of other brands into our brand. So every distributor across Southeast Asia had its own sort of distribution network and clients and marketing and so on and so forth. But as we kept on growing and we started working better as one, it made sense that we were aligning all the values, aligning the EVP. So in terms of attraction, we were capable of doing that. I guess when it comes to attracting GIS people, it's pretty easy because the brand is obviously the leading one in the world. But when it comes to other jobs, corporate jobs, operational jobs, it's not so easy because like everybody's like, what do you guys do? We don't even know what your product does. So most of the time we'd refer to baseline maps such as like Google Maps, and then basically saying, we're using data sets and we're creating visual sets, we're creating maps, we're creating dashboards. But we're also working with pretty much every single industry that you can think of. That makes it cool.
That's a really good selling point, and it is unknown. But jumping into an EVP, especially a global one, is hard and it's daunting. Yes. But how do you communicate that to the business as the global head of talent?
Well, it's a joint effort. That's definitely not a one-person job. I think it all started with having very clear communication with the execs, making sure that they understood that there were challenges in terms of attracting specific sort of niche people that we could not really get to the table. And so I think it started with this, and then eventually we cascaded down to having discussions with the marketing team. We went through a whole exercise of auditing what we have and what we had, and looking at mapping out what would be an organic next step, I suppose.
So trying to get an exec on board or multiple, it's really hard. How did you paint the picture that it is important that you do that? As a persona, as an executive, pretty clear who they are and what but how did you communicate and get through to them that they would get an ROI in this investment?
Well, look, we are a data-centric company, so we use data of our clients to generate, visual outputs, or non-visual actually. But so what occurred is that through the many years of recruitment, it was very clear that when it came to technical, specific GIS-related sort of recruitment, we never struggled. All right, to attract people because the brand is known, people know what Esri does, the ArcGIS platform. Everybody's like, yes, definitely want to to land there. So we were a bit of an employer of destination per se for anyone that was anywhere close to GIS. But then when it came to looking at data pertaining to, say, recruiting salespeople, marketing people, finance people, or HR people, the results were there. You know, you go to market, you start sourcing, you've got very little applications coming through. You've got to be, be creative in terms of the approach. We've got to be capable of explaining relatively complex stuff that we deliver, so we can intrigue people, get them to really buy into that journey of, actually, I don't know them, but they're exciting and I want to be part of it.
So was there a cost that you put in front of the executive by saying we could achieve X if we did X?
Not really cost. I think what we did as a team was putting data in front of them. So we looked at number of application, volume of application, cost of advertising, crazily on different platforms. As we know in Australia are pretty expensive. And so we looked into the ROI. Return on marketing investment as well. Like you're looking at the spend on non-GIS related adverts and how many times we had to go and re-advertise or headhunt or potentially look at, using agents and stuff like that. And it was just, mind blowing.
I think, were there any other levers that you were able to pull on to create influence? Because I've worked with employer brands when it's across multiple regions, or maybe it's a slightly federated business where you've got a different region operating. They're operating differently, but you're trying to get them to all come together.
Yeah, 100%.
So you've used recruitment metrics. Was there anything else that was a good lever in your business case?
Yeah, systems. Tech. So when you're looking at the state of talent acquisition across a region like that, the first thing that came to mind was, what do we do differently and why? And I think to me that was a bit of an eye-opener. I was essentially expecting Southeast Asian entities to be like on top of the game with recruitment management systems, technologies and everything. And I was very surprised. There were, such a different level of maturity across the business. And I think that was probably a bit of an eye-opener again for me to basically say, look, we're going to need to reset. We need to have the same system. We need transparency. We need something that's scalable. We need something that's auditable and that we can actually all comprehend, work on with, but also transform altogether. Because the one thing is I didn't want to come in and impose stuff, not my style. So there was like a whole heap of like consulting meetings, understanding what were the differences in terms of how do you go out there and attract people? Because, let's face it, we're in Australia. It's kind of hard to find people. You do the same in Indonesia, for example. You get thousands of applications right away. So how do you go with, funneling that down to something that's a bit more easy to work with, I suppose, from a TA perspective?
So, spoiler alert for those that are tuned in. We know that Tipco has got an EVP. He launched one on the 14th of August. Congratulations!
Thank you.
And you look like you're not scarred from going through the process.
Yeah, no.
You're looking pretty good. For those who are listening and not watching, you got through it.
It's the age, mate. Look, it's because again, that was not a one-man show. And I think if there's a couple of advice I can give to anyone that's starting that journey, define your project team, engage from like the very early stages with all the guys that will be involved. That's probably the best advice you can take away. I'm lucky to be part of a company where we're heard. So when we say something, usually they listen, and then we approach things step by step. We establish a framework, we establish a team, and then we look into the different sort of steps that we're going to go through. So that's why it took so long as well.
How long did it take?
I'd say 12, 18 months.
Yep. And
So
did that meet
piece
your
of work.
expectation? Did you go in there thinking that this is how long it's going to take?
Yes and no. I thought, we'll find a Band-Aid solution. Like many, I suppose. Like, you just go, we'll have a quick fix. We'll do a few videos, a few testimonials. We'll, polish some angles and happy days. Definitely wasn't that. So when we started engaging and talking to the marketing team, they were bloody geniuses at what they do. Like, they just really articulated all the requirements. And I think one thing that really not shocked me, but I think opened my eyes was, you may think you know everything about employer branding and attraction and so on and so forth, but there's so many different factors that you don't know about.
Tell us what did you...
Here's the good stuff.
Well, look, I think
What
marketing strategy
surprised
for
you
me
most? What surprised you most about doing this EVP project?
the engagement piece. To me, that was like the eye opener again. Like it's one of those things that you don't necessarily comprehend. It's just the back
The engagement it created in the business by doing
Yes.
it.
Can you set the scene? How many people are at Esri, and how many people were involved
Yeah.
in sharing, their point of view to
Sure.
capture?
So the marketing team is about 15 people,
Yep.
15 to 20. Australia-wide, there's only 300 of us.
Yep.
Now with the group as a whole, with SEA, so Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Bangladesh, and us, there's probably about 800 of us. So
And how many
it's nearly
people
double.
were involved in
Defining the project. So we started, I guess, with a team of about 15 to 20 people. And that was a mix of, obviously, HR, marketing. We had the execs, obviously, well involved into that. And that was across all the different, region that I just mentioned as well. So you got to take away, your Western approach, as in this is happening, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. So they just stripped that out completely. So we basically articulated something where there was a consulting phase, there was a serious engagement with the staff from ground up.
how many interviews were
149, 150, I think,
150,
altogether.
wow.
Well, I think there was, we were almost at 150. I think it was 148. So
That's
it was all like
that's
face-to-face
disappointing.
group
You
session.
didn't get that extra two.
One more.
I think I pulled out. No, I'm kidding.
And did you do surveys as well, or
So
workshops?
there was there was group sessions, there were one-on-ones, there were virtual, there were like a number of different sort of format, and there was not just one-offs as well. There were like playback sessions. There were like trying to really understand and really dwell further on what was working, what was not working, areas of maturity where we were kind of synced, I suppose, and where we weren't.
Yeah.
And that was obviously what we were very interested in.
And as a leader, and you're sort of itching to understand what the engagement is like internally, were you involved as the project was
Definitely.
kicking off? And would you recommend, instead of just, all right, well, this is 12 months, I'll see you in 12 months, see ya, interview everyone?
Look, it depends on the person. I generally care. I've been with the company for over 7 years, as was mentioned earlier. I think in TA, that's quite unique. I would hope so. Usually we turn around every 3, 4, 5 years, depending on how things are going. But I wanted to see that project through and through, because that was a bit of a, that was a baby that I started, and I just wanted to see it through, you know what I mean? So
keep you there longer.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, look, to a reasonable extent as well, we underestimate the amount of relationship and credibility we build through those projects. And I think that's something that you take away, for life. It's not just work. It's something that you can be proud of. And I'm certainly very proud of what those guys have achieved. And that's not, again, it's not a one-man show. It's a team effort. And seeing the new career websites going live without, any bugs or anything like that, and have them all very regionally oriented, to me was just, a wow effect.
So I asked that question deliberately because what I'm interested in is, was there any holy smoke, we better fix this quickly because this is what a group of people are saying? Because I can imagine
burning platforms or problems or...
Well, maybe there's a retention issue or there's an imminent retention issue, and maybe there's some quick wins, low-hanging fruit that you can quickly...
Yeah.
Did you find, did you discover anything like that?
Absolutely. Look, every company will go through the same stuff. You think that you do everything perfectly, but let's face it, you don't. No one does. So I think that maturity level, as I was mentioning earlier on, is something that was absolutely key for us. So we wanted to understand what was working, what people were anxious or worried about, what would make them want to come and work for us, what would make them want to stay with us, and what would make them potentially refer people to come and work with us or with them and with the whole group. So I think as we unpacked all those data and we started looking to what people were saying to us, one thing was clear, that leadership, on the market was very attractive to a lot of people. So they were working for a leader in the industry. They could associate themselves to the brand, and certainly to a certain level, like it's hard because when you're redistributing stuff, stack technology, you inherit from that, from that name, and you got to carry on. And sometimes people are a bit disconnected when it comes to, I'm not working for the mothership, I'm working for a distributor. There's such a massive difference. And so articulating that difference was quite of importance to them. And look, we're talking about employee value proposition here. So one thing when you're working across different locations, and that's a very HR problem, but you can't really align all the benefits that you've got across different countries.
Yeah.
Right? So one's going to give. You're going to have to kind of look into it and make it fair for everyone. So, you're looking at Australia's got, primary carers leave and secondary carers leave. Do we have the same in Bangladesh, in Indonesia, in Singapore, or the working from home policies that we have or that we inherited from, COVID times and stuff? So all of that was unpacked. And I think what really struck me as an individual, not so much as an employee, was that everyone was so transparent about what they liked and disliked. And so the dislike was coming from the fact that there was no, they were stressed about workload. That's definitely something. Workload, processes, you want to try and put some, methodologies and frameworks around that. But then the benefits, everyone knew that there was working from home, policies and hybrid models all over Australia, not so much around other countries. So we started looking into what's fair and what's done over there. So it's about unpacking the information, really kind of prioritizing everything.
Did that lead you to make those changes to make it fairer?
Yeah.
And as a result, has that helped with?
Yeah, massively.
Can you put your finger on
retention?
Yeah,
absolutely. Look, the amount of people and the amount of times that we had this discussion is crazy. So people are always considering their options as they should.
They're employees.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not working for the fun of it. So, you're all working for the same thing, and that's paying bills and providing for your family. But what I can say is that the amount of people that are wanting to stay is so much better than it's ever been. So since we've gone through that consulting phase, the engagement piece has been significant in terms of the impact it had on people. So they felt, and they are, valued. They know what works. The only people that can tell you how it goes in and out are the people that work for you. It's not about, consulting some firm externally that, will tell you about your brand. It's about really, engaging with your staff.
This episode is brought to you by Video My Job, introducing the fastest way to turn employee stories into multi-channel content. One video now instantly becomes branded blogs, quote cards, social posts, and more, all perfectly formatted for the channels you use to attract and engage talent. And the best part, zero editing required. Record once, repurpose everywhere. Book your demo at videomyjob.com and experience the new era of employee content creation.
So can I ask,
Sure.
there are different schools of thoughts about what can be done in-house. And it's not always a capability thing, it's a capacity thing. But there's also, again, quite a strong trend for using existing data in the business, like engagement surveys, and using as much data as you can. So it's interesting, in a team of, was it 300? You did 150 interviews.
So no, that's
800.
group wise. So that
800.
was group wise.
But 150 one-to-one interviews is a big number.
It's not quite as much as you want. So you got to complement that.
Yeah. So I'm interested. So a couple of things in there. There's probably a couple of questions.
Sure.
What's
You
your?
can ask them all, Will.
Okay, all right, I'm being allowed that. So I'm
He's not
interested
going
in-
anywhere.
Yeah. We locked the door. What's your view on using an external party? What does that bring compared to sort of doing it yourself? Like, what value does an external bring to that?
Excellent
Is there a role?
Yes, 100%. So avoiding bias. Because I think everybody's
BS or bias?
Bias. Sorry.
Bias.
Pardon my
I'm just
French.
checking. No, sorry, I was just
that's all
checking.
good.
I thought he swore there for a second.
Avoid the BS.
What the BS?
Avoiding bias. You're right. So they're keeping everyone
on the toes
on the
as
toes.
well. So one thing that we did is obviously we didn't do everything ourselves. We couldn't, in terms of location, specific time difference, and all the rest of it. It's just not doable logistically. So you have to do that partnership establishment well in advance, and that's what I was referring to when we say start, by setting up the scene. So make sure that you're engaging with the right people, but don't just go with my mate does that, or that company used those guys and they've done great. Like, you've got to do your own work, you've got to do your research. But again, marketing is a job, and so it's not something that you can pull out of a hat. You've got to do. You've got to give due diligence to the process, engage with a few different people, understand who works better for you, and then really kind of involve them from day one. And that's, again, what I was saying earlier on. You can't just run with it. It's not going to work. So you got to be partnering. You got to find your partners. You got to really establish that trustworthy and credible relationship, and that's probably super key as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Now that I've got to it, I can't remember the other questions, of course.
Do you want to rewind?
No, that's a really interesting point that you raise, and really good advice for anyone who is listening. I'm sort of circling around the opportunity of the investment and if you got an ROI, because it is significant time, 150 interviews, like pulling people out of their day-to-day, interviewing them. 150 people, maybe there's an hour and a half, them being organised. Like, it could turn into half a day.
Yeah.
And you times that by 150, there's a significant investment.
Yes.
It's significant.
But what's the cost of losing those people or replacing
Well,
those
I'm
people?
interested to know, like, if your numbers have improved, like that you said they have in regards to retention. There's also a bit of a feel good. People get
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
And that's what I was saying earlier on. Like, you don't look into those projects going, yep, done, next. It's a people project. It's our people project. So and again, like, it depends on whether or not you've got that passion for what you do. I certainly do, from what you can tell. But I think the engagement piece again comes back to mind. And I think when we started talking about it to the wider team at higher level, they immediately understood that there would be an ROI from an efficiency, a productivity, feel valued, I'm into that
ROI
for the
of
long
what,
term.
though? Like, have you
Productivity, I guess the delivery as well. So, like, one thing that we identified through the consulting phase was there were a lot of people that were stressed because workload, because lack of processes, or not having the right tools to do their jobs. And so for us, there was a great opportunity to, turn things upside down and provide them with what they wanted and what they needed. And
because you were close to the project, you didn't wait till the end.
And because
you
they're
actually
involved.
went boom. This is wake up, guys. This is happening. Like, we need to make a move.
But that's where the playback sessions are absolutely essential.
Okay.
Because when you go through that
Tell
process,
us about what is a playback session?
So playback is essentially after all those interviews and all those discussions that you're having with your staff. You hear the good thing, but you also hear the non so positive, and that's where you capture what you need to change, essentially. So it's not just about listening; it's about acting. It's about putting together things that will have a significant impact on your staff to make their day-to-day better.
Yeah.
And that to me was like spot on. Because when you get your playback sessions, you hear about, oh, well, over there they said this, or he said and she said, and all that sort of stuff. And you just go, wow, okay.
And it's all confidential. You're not hearing, there's no names associated with it.
It's all anonymous.
It's all anonymous.
Yeah. And again, I'll come back to
right?
Will, because I do remember your question now, but the data that we're using is not just that piece. Okay, so you got to figure out, how do we look into the employment, the engagement surveys that we're running every month, every quarter? How do we actually make sure that it is captured as part of the analysis and the review of what we're actually going through? Because you can't just rely on that one piece of work that's going to take, say 3 months or 4 months to interview everyone. You got to look into the historical data as well.
Yes.
So looking at what has occurred before, but also what you're capturing as you go through.
It's interesting. When we talked about the reasons for doing this project, I'm just joining a couple of dots in my head. I got a question. That you talked about, really it was hiring and sourcing the talent and the skills that the business would need, but you're only known mainly for a niche. So that was quite a traction almost. And I did think maybe it's leaning towards a kind of hiring brand. Like, how do we get the awareness up amongst people that currently may not know us for different types of roles? But what you're saying, the research actually was giving you insights into the current people experience and things that you may need or you may consider changing, like the disparity in benefits across different regions, but also things that may culturally be showing up, or the fact that everyone was really busy. Was that somewhat unexpected for you? Or, well, maybe the question is there, what is there a broader view of what the employer brand can do or represents? So it wasn't just ever really a hiring brand. Is it almost a definition of your people experience?
Absolutely.
Because you got much broader insights.
Absolutely. Because one thing, and I'm trying to read my note because there was something that really kind of struck me, but when it comes to talent acquisition or recruitment, that's attracting people externally, right? So people that don't know you. But what you need to really focus on, in my opinion as well, is what you do with your internal people. So I will be an advocate for promoting within and bringing in people, that can refresh, new or more junior jobs and so on and so forth. You can't do that for every job. I know that. You can't do that for every industry. I know that too. But storytelling. Focus on people that have been there for God knows how many years. Like, at Esri, in Australia, we've got people that have been in the business for over 30 years. Yeah. And we've got people in sales that have been there for well over 10 years. These are the stories that people want to hear about. Why are you still there? You started in, inside sales, and now you're like a manager of support or whatever it might be.
They're really interesting stories. Like, if you're able to promote those stories internally and get internal mobility, it just takes the edge off the talent acquisition team.
Absolutely. And I think, it comes down to engagement piece with your people. So it's identifying those people that can actually tell their story. Now, convincing them to tell the stories are different.
But there's different ways they can tell stories. They can do it through like a quote card.
Yeah.
Or they could do it through a blog. They could do it through a video. There's different ways that they can communicate a message.
100%. And that's what we did. And again, that was the marketing, strategies around how do we actually get them to communicate in the way they feel comfortable with. And that to me was another piece. I had no idea. I thought, we just, we'll just get video interviews, or we'll get them to do a video testimonial, or we'll get them to do like a write-up of their career to date and all that sort of stuff. And they came up with all these different versions, all these different sort of views as well. So not just from a pure technical perspective, but also from, the story of John, who started in support, or John, or, Carla, that was a finance officer, ended up being on the sales team, or, things like that. So it's kind of cool to see that as well, and being able to document it, but then feature it properly as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys had a look at the new websites and everything, but I personally think that that's the first time in my career to date that I'm actually spending time on my own website to just learn more about people. How cool is that? You know, you just go out there because you're part of the whole process, but you don't see everything that goes behind the scenes. So you're playing the videos of, you know, people that you've recruited or you heard about. Learn that story, you know.
So the career site's now an asset?
Definitely. Because we've got new websites across every single distributor and all went live at the same time on the same day.
Just flick the switch and press the button.
Yeah,
Boom.
yeah. No, I've got to say again, like the marketing team did an amazing job. Like they were fantastic at planning everything. Everybody was kind of shaky when we went live because like we did a full-on simultaneous launch across all the different regions.
And this is your internal team?
Yes.
Yeah, amazing.
Yes. So they had everything planned, and on the day we went live, everything went live. There was no bugs. There was no lag or anything.
That's good.
All the career website went from like 2.0 beta to like new stuff, and everybody was like, wow.
And you've got new assets to play with to help the people through the journey.
Definitely. And now it's like, you know, we changed all our job ads as well. They were like super long, talking about why to join us and da-da-da-da. And now it's like link, have a look on it, and you just go, wow, okay, I can learn a lot more about the company just by being on the website.
Yeah.
And so now we are looking at capturing data. So where are the people spending time on the website, on the career website? Like, do they stay into the why work for us, or are they going straight into the jobs? Are they looking for insights or the values or anything like that? So it's pretty
classic recruitment marketing. Gee, you do it all, don't you? Are you're using third-party tool like Google Analytics or something like that? Yeah, nice one. That's good. And it is really important to track what is landing, what's popular and resonating, because it can be changed. You've probably got like quite a bit of content to leverage.
Well, the one thing I was going to say as well, it's not just about building momentum, it's also keep going. You know, there's no, it's not, again, like, you know, in the early part of that discussion, I said I would have imagined it would have been a bit of a Band-Aid situation sort of thing. Definitely not. Now we've got something that's live, that's current, but what's a beauty about that is that it's an ongoing project. So like we've got more coming through. So it's not just like, yep, we've got it. We're going to leave it there for like 6 months or 12 months and do it all again. It's an evolving beast. So we've got like a map of all the different people that we want to engage with as we progress. And we've got assets that are being
candidates
filmed
that you want to attract.
Not just candidate.
Internally.
Yeah. So people that we're going to be rostering on like the testimonials, the videos and so on and so forth. And then obviously as we grab more people coming in, and as we keep growing the activities across the different sectors, we'll probably just put a feature on them as well.
Yep. Nice.
And the other thing that we've done, and again, that's the bread and butter about anyone that's in SaaS, PaaS, or in tech in general, client feature, client cases. Yep. So client talking about how great it is to work with us.
Yep, nice.
So it's not just a candidate experience, but it's also a client experience.
Yeah, because you dealt with marketing, you sort of want to get them like
you want to
sell
try
some
and
stuff
tap
too.
into everything, I suppose. Yeah.
And have you seen any numbers move? Like sometimes, not sometimes, quite often, if you are nailing your employer branding, there's so many statistics on how there are other costs that are being reduced through the business. There might be a reduction in job ads, time to hire.
We're part of the lucky ones.
Increase.
We've got a hiring enterprise program, and so we've got some pretty cool solutions with most providers. What I've seen so far, and look, we're only the 25th, I think.
It's early days.
So it's like, it's 11 days into the new EVP, but what I can tell you is that the number of applications went up drastically. Number of followers, because we've got LinkedIn pages for each distributor, has gone crazy up.
Yep.
And then we restarted structuring the solution on specific job boards in a different way, so we can actually capture that, and all that is going up. So we must have done something right.
Yeah. What are a couple of things that you advocate to track for, Will, once they've executed or gone live with their employer brand?
I think it really depends on the business and what you're trying to achieve. I think it's really interesting that you're talking about internal and external. And I think there's a real thing about sort of vanity metrics.
No. No.
What do you think? I think
he said applications.
No.
That's not vanity.
No. I'm talking more broadly about metrics, right? And that I think your dashboard. I think a couple of vanity metrics are really good.
What a couple of vanity metrics.
I like engagement and reach and clicks
Impressions
and those
and
things, because I think as much as you can say,
clicks are good.
yeah, right, but
Click-throughs are good. You sort of want them to take.
Man. I'm
You
more
want
of
them
a
to take
CSAT
action.
person, so it's like I want to see
Yeah.
what's going on
I'm
internally. I wanna
I'm
see
generally
that there
all
is
for
an
a
increase in
range,
there.
right? You want to be able to ladder up to business
Yeah.
priorities.
Yeah.
So there's a whole business component, but I do think a bit of shiny baubles and vanity metrics, because people know that stuff. When you look at a dashboard, they go, okay, there's some glossy stuff,
Yeah.
but really, is it moving the dial on
Yeah.
people-based metrics?
Yeah.
Whether it's and then it's
I'm with you.
sort of pick your poison around.
You know, one thing
quality
that
or
I want to
velocity.
see though is what's not working. I'm always looking for things that
Yeah,
are
that's a
not
really good
working.
angle.
So
Yeah.
like, you know, it's great. You've got numbers going up, and you know your CSAT's going up, and happier people at work. That's great. What is not working is my next question. And it's always going to be, you know, how do we make sure that what's not working is actually looked into and addressed properly? And so I think with an EVP, you know, yes, of course, you're going to have that sort of, you know, massive ramping up. Everybody's happy, and you got to seize that. You know, that's really cool, but you can't stop. And that's what I was saying earlier on. Like, you just don't stop on like that beautiful momentum. You got to keep going. So it's about, you know, identifying. You know, there might have been some stuff that didn't work during the launch. I don't know yet because it's really early days. But I certainly want to work with the marketing team to understand the number of clicks. You know, you talk about number of clicks, but you know, what are people looking at when you're
important.
on a website? One thing that we're launching, or what the marketing is currently working on, is an intranet for group, and that's one thing that we're missing. We've identified it through the consulting phase.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, so as I said, we're advocates about, you know, moving people internally, promoting within, and then backfilling,
Like personal
right?
development.
Yeah.
Like,
So we do like a whole heap of like learning and development, you know, programs, and we've got, you know, mentorship and coaching and buddying and all the stuff. But you need a place to advertise your jobs, and you need an area where you can move people potentially internationally as well.
Yeah.
You know, so that was part of the EVP as well. We started rethinking about that.
that's so cool.
How do we make opportunities available for people to move from, say, Australia to Singapore, or from Singapore to, I don't know, say Bangladesh, for example.
Yeah.
But the one thing that you need is a platform internally to do that. And we are lacking of it, but we know about it. So now we've got that ad hoc project on to basically put in a new sort of framework or a new SharePoint internally, where we can actually have all that captured properly. But again, that's another project that came out of that launch, because we had the internal job boards and the widgets and everything, happy days, but it's not working properly, or not structured the way we want it to be. So we've already started the process of identifying what works, what doesn't, how do we actually structure the page, because obviously, you know, each of them will have, each of us should have a SharePoint, but we need something that's more global.
Yep.
And so we're also looking at, you know, creating something that's a bit more homogeneous in terms of how do you go with creating a job rec. You know, having all the workflows set up properly as well.
I love that you're at this stage. This is such a good stage. You would never have got there unless you went through that EVP process to validate that this is a missing piece of the puzzle, and an important one as well. You know what? I've got an observation. And my observation is, and I don't know if you've got this as well, but I'd love to talk to you again in, say, 6 months' time, because people who lead EVPs often get promoted.
No.
Yeah.
I'm where I'm at, man. That's it.
No, it's so true. I think it's true. I can't validate it, but you know, I'd love to follow your journey just to see where you land, even this time next year. And I think my observation is because you're bringing these really important things to life. They're so valuable, and at the same time,
but it's not just me, man. Like,
you're
and
creating.
again, as I said, you know, you're part of a much bigger bearing.
I mean, that's nice that you say that, but you're creating connection as well. Like you're reaching into pockets that you wouldn't necessarily reach into, because you're in this other area where you're just dealing with hiring managers.
Yeah, but
and
then
this is
Will
elevating.
and you would know that I've been in that game long enough, and I think everybody that listens to your podcast and everything and reading your white papers and so on and so forth will tell you the same thing. We've got to be credible enough to work with our hiring managers. And I think the one thing that I keep on saying to my team and the newbies particularly as well, they've got to remember recruitment sits on top of BAU. So for us, it's our day to day. We're sourcing people, we're shortlisting, we're interviewing and all the jazz. But hiring manager is like, let's say an ITS manager who's got like a team of 50. When you come to him and you say, hey, dude, I need 10 hours of your time over the next 2 weeks to interview, I don't know, say an ITS, ops manager or like SDIs or whatever. Like, imagine the amount of work that it is on top of everything that they do. So my aim is to try and facilitate, but it's also to reduce the amount of time that they're going to spend reviewing CVs, reviewing people that we've shortlisted. So that's where I think having something that's I guess, relatively homogeneous across the organization comes in super handy, because we're just rolling out things that we consult and engage hiring managers on. And so it's not, we're trying that recruitment process at you and that's what it is. And, be happy that we're recruiting for you. It's no, we're partnering with you. We're going to go on that journey of growth together. And I think really the takeaway for me over the last couple of years has been that tech, you name it, whatever it might be, they're enablers. But the reality is, until you as a leader empower your team to actually deliver your vision, if you don't do it, you're screwed. You're going to be just, stuck behind the grind and you're just going to be, grinding and be unhappy. And I just want to be happy at work, and I want to see people in our team, in our organization, looking at recruitment as a partner, as an advisory capacity, and having a positive impact on the, on the overall picture or global brand.
And you're saying this because you feel like there's a before and there's an after, and you feel like this is how you feel now. You feel like you're empowered with this information and you've taken action.
I think you've pointed at a couple of things today which sort of come together for me, which is the value of doing an EVP project is multifaceted. Part of it is the engagement within your business and the attention it draws on culture and people experience. It's also the marker generally of a more sophisticated talent acquisition team, because they want a proactive conversation with hiring managers and the business that says this is how we add value. If you're a purely transactional function, generally it's a lower maturity business and you're a cost or a service. Whereas now you're saying, well, what's the value proposition? How do we communicate this? So you have a very different conversation. So I think you're right in saying quite often people get promoted, but but it's because they've lifted the skill level within the function. They've moved it to something that's more progressive. They've changed the dynamic of the conversation or the perception of TA within a business. So it points to a more mature function in terms of mindset and value that it can bring, right?
I agree. But look, I also think that it comes down to the interest you show in what you do and
the passion for it.
Yeah,
the energy, the mindset.
Yeah. A bit of everything, I suppose. Like, my humble 2 cents is that if you're in that game for the long term, you got to look into how do I make things easier for people that do recruitment. When you're looking at scaling up a team, whether you're in a startup mode or where you're looking for a bigger company, the key difference between recruiter A and recruiter B is going to be about the credibility and the trust that they're going to be building with their hiring managers. Like, it's not just about internal stakeholders, it's about a mix and a combination of an agile approach, understanding what works, what doesn't, and putting together things that will help them, not cripple them. I don't want to be the guy who's going to say to a hiring manager, no, you're wrong, no, you're wrong, no, you're wrong. Usually I want it to play the other way around. I want the hiring manager to say, I can't fault you on it. We've got a process that works. We've got, note taking. We've got video interviews. We've got reference checking, and all of it is automated. Everything falls under one roof. Happy days. Happy days. I remember the days where, we were receiving applications by email and everything was on a spreadsheet, and then you had to, do the reference on the phone. Couldn't get a hold of anyone for like a week. And look, man, we've got, like, we talk about AI, ML, and all the rest every day. And I think honestly that those are great tools. But again, the standouts in our profession will be people that don't master it, but know how to use it to their benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I feel like we could talk for quite a while, but we have really unpacked this topic, and I think it was a really good summary that you just gave, Will. That there's you're going beyond just leveling up. You're really setting a new standard if you are fortunate enough to have the curiosity and buy-in from the business to go on a journey and have that openness to learn by going through an EVP. So really thank you for your time. Really appreciate you sharing, popping the hood and letting us take a peek in. It was fascinating.
Thank you again.